All right, Shalom. First, I'd like to start by saying all praise to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Kakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles that were well, and salutations to the brothers that's doing the truth and sincerity. Now, this is just some information, a video on what's going on in Venezuela, and then I'm going to bring out a couple scriptures.
The Venezuelan Foreign Ministry is accusing the United States of orchestrating and celebrating an ongoing power outage in the country.
While in Venezuela people calmly handled the consequences of the electrical sabotage, the entourage of Donald Trump was celebrating and enjoying with guilty perversion the suffering of the Venezuelan people.
A few weeks ago, the Maduro regime blamed iguanas for causing a large electric grid blackout. We have now received the first video of what caused tonight's unprecedented nationwide blackout in Venezuela.
Maduro's policies bring nothing but darkness.
Electricity stations across Venezuela shut down during the Thursday evening rush hour, bringing public transport to a standstill. The power supply is gradually being restored in some parts of the capital. What you're seeing here is the Simon Bolivar International Airport in Caracas, where all flights have been suspended. Opposition leader and self-declared interim president Juan Guaido says the Maduro government's to blame, while the US pointed the finger at years of corruption and underinvestment. Venezuela's defense ministry, though, has called the outage an act of sabotage by the United States.
After all we have seen, after the statements from the spokesperson of the North American Empire and those who support them here, no one can be so naive to believe this is a random event. It is an attack on our homeland.
It cannot be normal that 50% of the hospitals do not have electric generators, and that the other 50 are barely able to operate during an emergency. The government is inefficient and corrupt, and we know that the end of darkness comes when the usurpers leave power in Venezuela.
All right. Now, as you can see, Venezuela got their lights turned out, and it was the American government. As you can see, it's just the U.S. trying to bring in their puppet leader. And if you read the Venezuelan and U.S. relations, they have always been trying to bring in a puppet leader. And through the years, a lot of the dudes or CIA operatives, like the dude right there, they kicked them out of the country. And then, their relations start to fall off more and more. And it's really fell off in this year. So,
Sense of the hospitals.
This guy right here is a CIA operative. That's how the U.S. does these countries and these nations. They send their CIA operatives in to, get the people to side with anti-government policy, so to speak, and eventually it turns into protests. Then protests turn violent, and then people, and it's all against the government to oust the president that's the head of that country, and set up a new puppet leader, and during all the little chaos and everything that the people are protesting about, majority of the time it'd be because of the sanctions that the U.S. has on these nations that's stopping food, money, certain resources, which ultimately helps fuel the fire to get these people to riot. So, this is just another one of the U.S.'s agenda. They have an agenda, to bring in this new world order. And they need all these nations who are opposing it under their subjection. Venezuela has sided with Russia, and Russia is backing Venezuela. So, they did the same thing with President Assad, and Russia backed Assad, and they're trying to get into Iran also. That's part of the agenda, and Russia is backing Iran. That's Ezekiel 38th chapter, be a guard unto them. So, but I'm going to start with the scripture right here. This is Micah chapter 2, verse 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity, and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. Right. So the elites are ultimately running everything, getting these puppet leaders to fulfill their agendas, and they have the money to do so. So, the Lord said destruction unto them, because ultimately this right here, what's going on, is prophecy, which is going to lead to the main ending prophecy, which is when Yahushua come back and take over the world. So it says, and they covet fields and take them by violence. And, that was our history in slavery. They took all our lands. And, they trying to do it again now today. When they implement these puppet leaders, and they take over these lands and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man and his heritage, right? And they're oppressing the Venezuelans, which the Venezuelans are one of the 12 tribes of Israel, Asher. It says, verse 3, therefore thus said the Lord Yahweh, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. Right, because ultimately, America, which is the woman riding on the beast, is going to be destroyed. And the elites that's doing this, that's funding all this, and trying to bring in this new world order, they're going to be put into slavery. All right, this is Second Ezra chapter 8, verse 50. It says, for many great miseries shall be done to them that in the later time shall dwell in the world. Right, so what they're going through is miseries. These Venezuelans, when their power got cut off, a lot of people who needed surgery were unable to get surgery. A lot of people who needed medicines were unable to get medicine. A lot of people probably died. A lot of people probably died. You be having severe cases, people be in severe cases where they need electricity and weren't able to get it. So, a lot of people did die. But they're not gonna put that in the news media. I think the most that they said was 15 when I watched one video. But there's it's worse than that. They don't want to create too much of a panic. This is back to 2nd Ezra chapter 8, verse 50. For many great miseries shall be done to them that in a later time shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride. Right, so Venezuela, the Venezuelans, the president of Venezuela, they know the Venezuela president, Maduro, he knows he's an Israelite. These elites, or these presidents in these high prominent positions in this world, know who everybody is, because they have the knowledge. They're at the top, but they not going to tell, the ones that's under them who they are. Because a lot of them sold out. A lot of them like their position. A majority, all of them like their position in the society. Because if they didn't, they would have said something by now. But this verse 51, it says, but understand thou for thyself and seek out the glory for such as be like thee. Right, so the ones of us who are woke, we supposed to seek out the rest of the elect, but the rest of the men of the Lord, and those who don't want to who don't want to come back to Yahweh Shai, gonna be destroyed or the Lord gonna deal with them when he come back. Everything gonna be put back in subjection. There's gonna be a righteous order when the Lord comes back. A righteous order established when Yahweh Shai come back. This is Slovakia. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 12 verse 2. I'm gonna start at verse 6. For the Most High hated sinners, and will repay vengeance unto the ungodly, and keepeth them against the mighty day of their punishment. Right, so the Lord gonna destroy all his people off who are sinning. That's basic. Okay, then I'm gonna jump to verse 10. It says, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped away a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. Right, so these Venezuelan leaders weren't supposed to trust this devil, this Edomite, because he's our enemy. He's the one who, him and the rest of the nations did away with our nationality. Got our land, the so-called Jews, the Khazars, Esau, got our land. A lot of them got our customs. They don't want us to know who we are. But in this case, I'm keeping on Esau. Esau is the forerunner of all of that. So the Venezuelan leaders trusted in this devil. Made agreements with this devil. They got agreements. They do business. And now that this devil is showing his horns, they feeling salty. But the Venezuelan president ran from one devil to the next. Vladimir Putin. That's another devil. That's Esau, Edomite. An Edomite. So he all fucked up. They're not trusting Yahweh Shai. That's why they're going through what they're going through. So rightfully so. This is verse 12. Set him not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, and that's what you see going on. They're trying to overthrow Maduro. He stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith right. So since they don't want to follow after the law, statutes, commandments, the judgments, know who they are, get the understanding of the history, in particular this scripture, that devil was running all types of game on them, trying to take their seats. And when you read the Venezuelan and U.S. relations, it breaks that down. It says how it was suspected that the U.S. was using CIA agents to try to start riots and anti-government campaign, so to speak. Until that relations just really ultimately fell off, which was this year. So that's that devil trying to take Maduro's seat. This back to verse 12. It says, set him not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. All right. Yeah, that was the last scripture. So I'm going to play this next video. Oh.
Now, the Venezuelan president says a new cyber attack prevented authorities from restoring power throughout the country. That's after a blackout this Thursday.
Right, and that cyber attack was to help to fuel more fire, because them Venezuelans snapped behind that electricity going out. You know.
We had advanced almost 70% when we received at midday another cyber attack at one of the generators that was working perfectly, and that disrupted the reconnection process.
Speaking during a rally in the capital, Caracas, Nicolas Maduro said the attack undid everything that had been achieved. Venezuela suffered a massive power cut on Thursday, which reportedly led to the deaths of 15 dialysis patients. Some services were later restored, although intermittently. The government blamed the outage on U.S. sabotage and a cyber attack. During the rally, pro-government demonstrators described Washington's measures as brutal aggression. They also once again expressed support for Nicolas Maduro. Meanwhile, opposition leader Juan Guaido also addressed a rival rally.
Everyone can come together in Caracas and listen carefully to the goal for all of Venezuela to come to Caracas. Because we need all of us to be united in this moment, I announce my trip and that of members of Congress throughout Venezuela to definitely bring everyone to Caracas.
Guaido accused Maduro's government of creating electricity crisis. Self-declared interim president said that Maduro had no way to solve the problem. He threatened to call for foreign intervention, quote, when the time comes. Guaido's presidential declaration last month was immediately endorsed by the U.S. And joining us now for this news review is Ahmed Caballo, Press TV out of Caracas, our own correspondent, Cheryl Labash, writer and anti-imperialist activist, joining us out of Washington, D.C. Hello, and I want to welcome you both to the program. Now you bet. Now we have kind of a bad connection with you there, Ahmed, but do your best to give us an update if you can. Okay, Ahmed, you know what? The connection is a lot worse. Ahmed, you're going to have to hold off. We can't make out anything you're saying. Cheryl, I'm going to swing over to you for the time being. Okay. Your thoughts on everything we're seeing, every trick there is in the book being, just unleashed upon the Venezuelan government.
Right. There is a war going on by the United States against the people of Venezuela and against their elected president, Nicolas Maduro. It's really, when you look at the power outages, the power plants have been targets of sabotage for many years. But this is a massive power outage. We can look back to 2015 and the attack that was waged on Iran with a cyber attack. The United States government and its allies are very capable of doing this and realize that the disruptive nature of it on daily life. I will dispute the deaths because the people, the blame goes 100% on the United States. The sanctions are killing people. There is no doubt about that. They talk about dialysis. What about the people who can't get insulin? The United States is willing to kill people slowly so the people in the United States don't know what's happening and don't raise an alarm and opposition, although that opposition is starting.
It's funny you say that.
Just to correct that real quick, the Lord is killing these people. He's using this devil, though, to bring to pass his prophecies and his word, but it's ultimately the Lord. This devil doesn't have any power. This is 2 Samuel chapter 2 verse 6. It says, is it 6? Is it 1 Samuel? I think I grabbed the I think I grabbed the wrong Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 2 verse 6. Yeah, this is 1 Samuel chapter 2 verse 6. The Lord Yahweh killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up. Right? So the Lord determined if you die, if you don't die. The Lord Yahweh maketh poor and maketh rich. He bringeth low and he lifteth up. And I just want to add that because a lot of them out there that's poor, the Lord did that to them, man. The Lord got full control of everything. You know. Everybody in their position behind because of the Lord want them to be. But, you know, that's for another day.
I've been residing in Iran now for 8 years, and I've seen what sanctions do to ordinary citizens. I've seen co-workers, I've seen colleagues, I've seen friends scurry around to a dozen or more pharmacies to just get basic.
Right, and like I was saying in the first video, the U.S. put these sanctions, I think I did say it, the U.S. put these sanctions on these nations, which, you know, starves the people. You know, the people usually don't have any money, can't get to certain resources and stuff of that nature, which has them start protesting against their government. And it's like they're using the ordo ab chaos doctrine, order through chaos. You know, these people, Esau starts the problem. You know, the people riot. You know, the chaos turn to chaos, and then they end up bringing the order. And the white man tries to come in and being a hero. You know, just like in this case, they put the sanctions on, got the people rioting. You know, and they puppet leader talking about it's safer on the other side, or the grass is greener in America, and now the people want the American government to come in, and then they bring in all the aid and all that extra shit, and then try to make the president look bad because he denies the aid, and then more protests come, and all this extra stuff, man. That's Esau agenda, the devil. That's why you ain't supposed to trust. That's why the scriptures say, "Never trust thine enemy."
Medicines for their children, and it's very disheartening when you actually live it and see it in person. And it's just unreal that you would see a government unleash that, and then at the same in the same token say that they care about the people. They're doing this for the people of that country. Colleagues, I've seen friends scurry around to a dozen or more pharmacies to just get basic medicines for their children, and it's very disheartening when you actually live it and see it in person. And it's just unreal that you would see a government unleash that, and then at the same in the same token say that they care about the people. They're doing this for the people of that country.
That's right. The United States, Marco Rubio, Elliot Abrams, all of these officials in the U.S. government are very willing to make the people of Venezuela suffer. And they've shown that with Iran. They've shown it with Cuba. They make banks fearful of even having transactions that are allowed, like for medicine. And it's inhumane. It's a crime against humanity. I'm very glad that Venezuela has gone to the United Nations about this attack on their power system. But we need to really call out who is responsible for this. It's not the Venezuelan government. It's not the Bolivarian Venezuela. It's right here in Washington, D.C. And on the 16th of March, on the 30th of March, there are going to be massive demonstrations supporting Bolivarian Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro here in Washington, D.C.
And sure, we only have about a minute left. But seriously, when the U.S., when they go this all out for regime change in a country, when is the last time we saw post-regime change a really peachy atmosphere for people of that country? We didn't see it in Libya. We haven't seen it in Afghanistan. We didn't see it in Iraq. Where did we actually even see it in the last 20, 30 years?
And the fact that this self-appointed alleged president Guaido is willing to call in military and other U.S. intervention is despicable. It shows that he really has no interest in the Venezuelan people. You look at the kind of destruction and social dislocation, the disaster, and the the people, ordinary people who are killed, every day through bombs and drones and these terrorist cliques like the Guarimbas in Venezuela. It never has brought calm development or social harmony.
Okay,
We've seen it.
We're almost out of time, Cheryl. I want to thank you. I want to swing over to Ahmed. I don't know. I think we still have a bad connection, but do your best, Ahmed, to give us an update out of Caracas, if you could, please.
Yes, so I went to the opposition protest today, and I also went to the pro-government protest, and it was startling, the contrast between both. So at the opposition protest, I saw people openly calling for the United States to invade their country. Now, I heard a woman describe Donald Trump as a savior who's going to save Venezuela. I could not believe my ears.
That's the same mistake Issachar made when the Spaniards came over. What dude name is? I forgot his name.
Just touching on what the guest has said, I interviewed the Deputy Health Minister 2 days ago. He told me about Euroclear holding on to over £1 billion worth of money, which was going to be used for medical goods. Now, this has effect on the ground. People die because of the lack of medical supplies. People don't see it because it's not bombs. It's not bombs, and it's not drone strikes, so they don't recognize it as much. But it's a slow, painful death in which you force the country to suffer so much that they will turn on their government and do what the woman did today and actually call on the arson to put out the fire.
You know, it's funny, right now Donald Trump is having a pretty tough time saving Donald Trump, let alone Venezuela. I want to thank you both for joining us. Out of Caracas, our own Press TV's Ahmed Caballo, and out of Washington, D.C., Mrs. Cheryl Labash. Thank you both. And for our viewers, that's a wrap for this segment of your Press TV's News Review. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Yeah, man. Israel in general, don't know who their enemy is. Actually doesn't know who their enemy is. That's why they're going. Well, one of the reasons why they're going through what they're going through. Second, we still under the curses. Israel want to worship and do everything outside of these scriptures. But I'm gonna end it off with this scripture right here. This is 2 Ezra chapter 15, verse 16. For there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. And when you look up that word sedition, it means people who uprise against their government and invading one another, right? They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power, right? And what's going on over there is just a little bit of a taste of this scripture. They uprising against their government. They haven't killed none of their presidents or senators as of yet, that I've read thus far. But it's on its way. It's only gonna get worse. And a lot of what's going on in these other countries is just tests, before they bring it to the U.S. Because the U.S. is gonna get it the worst. They've been holding these tests for quite some time and whatnot. But when the Lord get that word, it's gonna be a wrap. You still got prophecies that need to come to pass first. But with that being said, all praise to Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, B'Shem Karkadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles that rule well, and salutations to the brothers that's doing truth and sincerity. And just as another note, actually them going through it, right? Because that's the curses. They want to be in gangs and shit.